Hello and welcome to this short video on how to conduct a correlation analysis in SPSS. As you'll notice, I have 5 variables. I've just called these variables 1 through to 5. Obviously in your data you will have the variables as the different variables that you've collected data on and named them correctly. But you can see each of these variables is on some form of interval scale. And so therefore we can run a parametric correlation on these. We would assume that we have tested for skewness and normal distribution and that they will be independent scores, all of those assumptions underlying correlation analysis. But this video will just run through how to analyse the data. So we've got our variables. What we want to do is then click on Analyse, go down to Correlate, and we're going to do some bivariate correlations. So the simple correlations between 2 variables at a time. So that brings up this menu. And we don't have to put each of the variables in 2 pairs. It will analyse the relationship between variable 1 and variable 2, variable 1 and variable 3, variable 1 and variable 4, variable 1 and variable 5. Then 2 and 3, 2 and 4, 2 and 5. It will look at all of the relationships between those. By default, it's going to be a Pearson correlation, and that's appropriate for this data. And it will be a 2-tailed test of significance, which is fine when you don't have a directional hypothesis. We don't need to click on any options at this stage. Just click on OK. Sorts of outcome that we will find is it produces a large table of correlations, and remember that from this diagonal row down there's a mirror representation of the bottom half in the top half. So the relationship between variable 1 and variable 2 of -177 is exactly the same as the relationship between variable 2 and variable 1. So actually half of this table is a bit redundant, so what we would normally do is just remove those irrelevant pieces of information before we even begin to look at our correlations. So I'm removing the bottom half of the table. So now we have the relationship between variable 1 and variable 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 4, 1 and 5, variable 2 and variable 3, etc. So you see the relationships here. That has unfortunately removed the significance values, but if we look at our middle rows, that tells us which of these variables are significant. So we can see here that this variable 2 and variable 5 are significantly correlated because this is less than 0.05, and that's a large size correlation, 0.693. We can also see that this variable here, variable 2 and variable 3, is also significantly correlated and quite large in terms of its relationship. This one here, between variable 3 and variable 5, is also correlated, and that none of these variables, any of the variables with variable 1, are correlated with any of the other variables in a significant way. So that's quickly how you do a correlation analysis in SPSS. Obviously, if you wanted to put this table into a report, you would edit this table down into an APA style for a research report or paper. But that's how you do a correlation analysis in SPSS.